Coming to us from Mount Holyoke Prison and boasting an IQ of 202, it's Dr. Collector!
Hey there everybody, and welcome back to more of the Dynasty series. It's me, Cooper, and today we're going to talk about Dr. Grimsley. Sorry, that's Dr. Collector. Oh my god, I just watched last episode, that's funny. Dr. Collector, yeah, this guy is a weird situation where the character does not look anything like the deck he likes to use. This guy likes to use spellcaster monsters, mostly cutesy ones. I've added some bad cards to make the deck weaker for no reason. But let's take a look. He likes the boss monster, Cosmo Queen, which I think is really cool. Cosmo Queen is one of those boss monsters that you wish would get more support, but never did. But they're a really cool monster nonetheless. He also has the princesses, which I threw in the deck to make him horrible, so there you go, everybody. He's got Magician's Valkyria, which is a really good card for a spellcaster deck, which... wink wink, he's using a spellcaster deck. And Magician's Valkyria is just a super good stall card. If you can get two of these on the field, you have a lock. He's got Ebon Magician Curran, and this card is good for burning, especially if you have a Magician's Valkyria to protect them. You also have White Magician Pikeru, which is good at healing, and is good if Magician's Valkyria can protect them. They also have Apprentice Magician to search out these cards, so this is a good search floater thing. He's got Magician of Faith, which is another good search card to get you your spell cards back. He runs Dimension Fusion, which I don't remember why this is so busted, but now I'm going to see, because Dimension Fusion is super good at getting out 5 monsters at a time, but also lets your opponent get monsters out, so in this kind of deck, it can totally backfire unless you're good at, unless your Cosmo Queen is stronger than whatever your opponent has. We have Graceful Charity, which is great. We have Magical Blast, which is interesting. Inflict 200 damage to your opponent for each spellcaster monster you control. During your draw phase, if this card is in your graveyard before you draw, you can give your normal draw. Give up your normal draw and add this to your hand. In other words, if you have a lock, you could just burn your opponent down. Because if you have 2 of these on the field, you can just get more of these for burn. And then every time you use this, you'll get 400, 600, 800, up to 1,000 damage. And then if you do 1,000 damage, and then you're like, next turn, I want another 1,000, and another one, and another one. He's got Magical Stone Excavation to get him back his spell cards that he likes. Monster Reborn's great. Pot of Greed's great. Mystical Space Typhoon's great. This is the card that makes his deck actually really good. He has Dimensional Fissure. And with this card, you could just make it so all monsters that die get banished instead of going to the graveyard. In other words, you have nothing to worry about. Your opponents will be removed from play. They cannot hurt you anymore. Unless you Dimensional Fusion and let them back in the game, they will most likely be trapped because nobody has anything to do with remove from play cards. Like in this tournament, there's like maybe 1 or 2 cards that exist that deal with the banished zone. So basically, this card is super busted in a tournament like this. This card is going to be aggressive as hell, and if you're able to get a Cosmo Queen out, this card will make it so you can just make sure your opponents never get their effects off, always get removed from play, and run out of cards eventually. We have the Trial of the Princesses card, which makes these cards stronger, Ebon and White Magician Pikeru. And if these cards are able to destroy like a level 5 or higher monster, they get to evolve into their bigger form, which do either a lot more healing or a lot more burn, which is really bad. These are dead cards. They have Magician's Circle, which is really good at getting the lockout if you can pull off 1 Magician's Valkyria. Call of the Haunted, which helps with the lock, and if before Dimensional Prison happens, you still have something to revive your monsters. Nightmare Wheel, which is just amazing because it makes your opponent get stuck on the field, and you burn them for 500 damage each turn. This is a Merrick special right here. So, Dr. Collector, a weird guy that likes to torture people, burn them, you know, beat them in different ways, but can beat them in battle as well if they pull off their Cosmo Queen. An interesting deck, to say the least. So, let's go ahead and check out Dr. Collector's stats. Not the best. Not the worst, not the best. So, looking at his stats, his attack stat is below average. Cosmo Queen is great. 2,900, great. These cards are dead cards, they don't count. I mean, they do count, but they don't count. 2,000 for what it costs to summon them is insane. Magician's Valkyria is fine. 1,600 is good. 1,200 terrible, 1,200 terrible, 400 absolutely ass, and 300 absolutely ass. his attack stat is below average. It's not good. Like, he does have some cards in here that are fine, but overall his deck is below average. Moving into his speed stat, very good. This is a fast deck. This is an above average deck when it comes to speed. Reasons. Apprentice Magician, fast. Magicians of Faith, fast. Dimension Fusions, fast. This technically can come back, so that could be considered speed. Magical Stone Excavation, fast. Let's see. This is a special summon, technically. Trial of the Princesses. Magician's Circle, fast. And Call of the Haunted, fast. So he does have some good speed-based cards. Skill. Funny enough, this deck, even though there are some situations where you can win by battle, this deck normally wins through skill, which is why he has an above-average skill stat. Because burn card, heal card, burn card, heal card. Gives you back your other spells and traps, whatever. Or spells, whatever. Burn card, burn card, burn card. Very tactical card for making your opponent not be able to use their effects and eventually deck out. Burn card, burn card, burn card. In the end, this deck can be used to just burn and stall your opponent out. Stall and burn is how this deck really works. The only time I ever recommend going aggressive is if you can get Cosmo Queen out, because Cosmo Queen is enough to win you the fight. You don't have to stall and burn the entire time. At Cosmo Queen, you can have these guys in defense mode. Cosmo Queen goes aggressive, and then the burn still goes through. So it's a good combo. There's no luck based in this deck. This deck is whatever. You don't have to worry about that. And this deck does break, sadly. It does have a below average break stat. Why? Because it runs triple Cosmo Queen. Because it runs these two cards that ruin them. Because it runs triple Dimension Fusion, which eventually, these are going to be a brick eventually. Magical Blast, even though you can almost always use this card, you do not want to. So that can be considered bricky. Trial of the Princesses is basically a dead... It's not a dead card because you will most likely be able to use it, but it's a bricky card too. I would say the rest of these are okay. But these are dead. Like, you need to pull off the lock to make these usable. So, dead cards until you get off a combo. This card is always usable. This card is mostly usable, unless you're setting because your opponent's aggressive against you, so nothing you could do about that. And this card is mostly usable, but doesn't really... It's never going to pull off this combo. If you ever pull off this combo, I will be impressed. If you're able to summon the Princess Curran or Pikeru, that will be impressive to me. So the Dr. Collector deck is pretty interesting all around. It does have some methods of winning, but overall its stats are kind of low. However, despite the fact that Dr. Collector has low defense stats, I mean, the low stats in defense, low stats in attack, low stats in everything but skill and speed, I will say this. He is a tournament contender. A real duelist in this tournament, a subscriber that understands the potential behind this deck, is willing to use the stall, is willing to use the lock, is willing to use the burn strategy part of it, and is not afraid to go aggressive when they pull off the Cosmo Queen, can win matches, and I honestly think can win the tournament, if not as lucky. I mean, there's a chance they can win, but it's not as big. It's bigger than you would think, though. Looking at this deck, if I were to use it, because I have used it, I've tested the deck many times, I pulled off plenty of combos that make this deck really effective, and I'm going to say that this deck gets a 3-star potential. I know that seems a little high for me, but overall, you would be amazed the kind of combos you could pull off with this deck. Maybe I just got lucky during the test duels, but I've won a shit ton of test duels with this deck, and I'm going to say that this deck gets a 3-star. So, that's going to be it for Mr. Dr. Collector. If you guys are enjoying this series, please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.